Hello and welcome to the channel. I am Herb97 and this video has been created for the purposes of teaching college students how to create and utilise a bibliography in their reports for their coursework. Being a college student myself, when I first began college and I had to start writing professional standardised reports for my coursework, I had no clue on how to source any sort of information taken from the internet or from the library, such as books or websites. Since I am in the final year of my college, I have been given the opportunity to create a project of my choice. I intended originally to create a collective of videos on how to write a professionally standardised report, but due to a number of reasons, both personal and technical, I have been limited down to only one, and this issue is the one I consider the most relevant. Referencing, or more specifically, the bibliography list that accompanies them. As a result, this video will go into the concept of what is a bibliography, what sort of stylings must they be created in other words how they look, and how citations for the bibliography can be created and utilised, as well as going into some examples of both an offline and online resource. In this case, that shall be a website and a book. I shall also be going into two different avenues that the bibliography list can be created on. E.g., I'm going to be showing you two options that you can utilise to create the bibliography for your coursework. I hope you enjoy. A bibliography is a list of all the resources that a report has used in its main body of text. In other words, it's the research that the author of the report has utilised in its main body of text. A bibliography's main purpose is to source this information by demonstrating what sort of entry it was. The main reason as to why students have to do this is, for lack of the better word, the exam board who mark the assignments and the lecturers who have taught these subjects to the students won't consider a student's opinion over a qualified professional who has published work on an offline account like a book or on an online account such as a blog. The entire process of researching a subject matter is common practice in sort of research-based writing. As a result of this, any sort of work that a student would submit that has in its main body of text work that has been taken from an outside source and has been submitted must be acknowledged as being someone else's. In other words, if a student utilises a outside source such as a website or a book, for example, they have to acknowledge the fact that it's not their work, and if not, then not only will it be considered invalid but also lose marks from the exam board who mark the reports. However, it also must be stressed that a student has to also give their own view, such as a brief summary from the research, or perhaps an impact on what the research may show for the report, depending on the subject matter. For example, this report was submitted earlier this year for my own assignment work, and as you can see here, I utilised a table to display some research that was done for the methods of research purposes for a project that was done in semester 1 of my own final year at college. After I did a brief bit of research, simple bullet points here and there, I also then did a summary on my own thoughts and how it would impact the project that this unit was based upon after doing the research, which is in truth what the whole purpose of a bibliography is. It's supposed to be a reference point that examiners and markers can utilise to see that students have, in truth, researched the topic that the report is based on. As a result, the bibliography and all the references that are included within the main body of text are all crucial aspects of any sort of report that a student has to produce for their coursework. This fact was stressed to me in particular when I first began college, and the bibliography itself has always been the toughest aspect of it. Keeping this all in mind, in general, a bibliography will usually include some of the following. Just going back to the example I shown before and going back to its own bibliography page. Ooh, there it is. It will generally include the author's name, which we can see right here, the title of the published work. In this case, it was the top 6 methods of data collection explained, referencing whether it was an online or offline source, and from there it was stating when it was available and what date it was accessed. There are some other primary aspects to bibliography references as well. However, these are generally the primary factors that any sort of student would need to find out in order to create a bibliography entry on the list for a report. Later in the video, there will be a demonstration as to how to create an entry and what sort of features other different sources may have different from a one like this. So, as you can see here, I am on Microsoft Word, arguably the best place for a student to create a bibliography on, not only due to its popularity, but also due to the fact that it's mostly readily available to nearly every sort of report author on the planet, specifically students, since most colleges will provide them access to this software either at home, especially during the lockdown and COVID pandemic that's been going on, as well as at college itself. There are some other online sources that can be used as a substitution, one of which will be explained later in the video, but for now we'll be utilising Microsoft Word as the ground base for this example. So, in order to begin creating our bibliography, what we're first going to have to do is go to the top of the screen. As you can see, there are several tabs here. We're going to want to be pressing on References tabs. And as we can clearly see here, there's a section titled Citations and Bibliography. However, before selecting the bibliography option, be sure to select on the option above the bibliography style. This is for the styles of citations that will be used in the report. Make sure the option selected is Harvard Angular. The reason being is the Harvard Angular referencing style is the one used at university levels, and this is what both lecturers and the exam board will be looking for in reports, since it's considered the university grade equivalent. Now, by pressing the bibliography option, we can see here we have 3 different options for a bibliography list: work cited, references, and bibliography. I'm going to go with bibliography. Now, I will stress that it doesn't really matter which one of these 3 you choose. It has no effect on the actual bibliography itself. It's simply just a title change. As you can see here, even Word says it is an automatic bibliography, simply just labelled as a different title. So once again, it is simply just up to the author or the student who is writing this report what they'd like their bibliography to be named. However, at this moment in time, as you can clearly see, this bibliography is empty. So now I'm going to demonstrate how to input a citation or an entry into this bibliography, as well as what an in-text citation will look like that can be used on the main body of text. And for that, we're going to need an online resource. I have selected here a review of the video game Resident Evil 7 that has been uploaded to the website by IGN as a review of the game. to be this online resource. Now, all that needs to be done to begin the citation is, first, we simply need to copy the URL. So, copy, cut, going back onto the Word document. Now, make sure to click off the bibliography when creating a citation, as you really do not want to create one in the bibliography itself. I speak from past experience when I say that can go terribly wrong and really mess up your report structure. Pressing Insert Citation and Add New Resource. Now, as you can see here, we have numerous different fields that must be entered for the resource that we wish to create the citation from. However, first we must make sure that we have selected the correct type of resource, or source in this case. Now, while it is already set to website, as you can see, there are many others. From books to films to interviews to even miscellaneous ones such as images. That Word doesn't count, although it does have an art option, so I suppose it could fit into there. An electronic source, a document from a website like a PDF, an actual report, conference proceedings, so like a recording. These are all options that need to be considered when creating the citation, but in this case we simply require the website. Now then, all we have to do to start beginning to create the bibliography is to first paste in the URL into its designated field, and now we simply need to state the date that it was accessed, so 22nd of the 5th. However, as it can be shown here, Word would like us to put in the date, actual month, name. So we'll have to put in May. And the year 2021. Very simple. However, now we are going to have to add the year it was published. This can very easily be found by simply going back onto the website. And not only have we found the year it was posted, but the year it was updated, and the year and the author who wrote it. Apologies for that. So, when it comes to the dates of it actually being published, it is a safer bet to publish in when the review or the website was actually updated rather than when it was posted, since that is the most up-to-date version on the online resource. So, it was created in 2018, or it was updated in 2018, I should say. So as a result, we shall be typing in 2018. Name of the web page, once again, that's very simple. Going right back up the top, and as you can see, it is simply titled Resident Evil 7, Biohazard Review. Going back to the citation creation yet again, and pasting that in. Now it comes to the author. This is very tricky, because in some cases, some online sources may not actually display the actual author of the online resource. However, if that is the case, simply press corporate author, and then you can insert the name of an organization or corporation who created it. And in this case, that is IGN. However, if you'll recall, there was, in fact, already a author, Chloe Rad. I hope I'm pronouncing that right. So simply, we copy, we go back into the citation creation, we deselect corporation author, and then we paste in her name. Now, all that remains is for me to press OK. However, if a citation like this had multiple authors, or if I wish to reference in this citation in particular about the IGN Corporation author, however, if I try pressing it, it switches it back. I cannot have one without the other. As a result, by going into the edit feature here, I can then add yet another author to the citation. So in this case, and if I wished, I could delete Chloe Rand. In fact, that's what I'm going to do. So I'm going to press OK. I've deleted Chloe Rand, and in this case, I'm going to put in IGN here, and then paste in here in the edit section the author's name instead. What this will do is it will create a new sort of name for the author where the corporation has been featured first, and then a semicolon follows it, followed by the last name of the author and the first name. In truth, this is the sort of title for an author you would want in a citation, since it references the corporation as well as the actual author itself. However, if you cannot find the author's name, then simply inputting the corporation or the website that is hosting the online source is a suitable replacement. However, it will lose you a few marks with the exam board, as they'll consider it to be unfinished research, as you will, or where the student hasn't researched properly the source and has lazily simply said the website created it rather than the actual author of the website. For example, if trying to reference Facebook and simply saying Facebook created a post when on that social media platform the whole purpose of it is to allow users to create a post, and the user was not referenced as the author alongside Facebook, then the student who created this citation would lose marks as a result. However, with this in mind, I'm simply going to press OK now. And as we can see here, this is the in-text citation. We will come back to this later, but for now, returning to the bibliography list I created earlier, I'm just going to press Update Citations in Bibliography, and voila! We have an entry. It is a simple process, especially if you're using a system such as Microsoft Word that does most of the work for you. And as a student, rather than spending time trying to create this layout in a Word document, you could allow it to do it for you and save you much time that you will be probably spending actually writing and researching the main body of your text, from which the bibliography will prove most useful. Now, many of you at this point are most likely wondering what exactly is a citation. As I have mentioned at this point already what is the bibliography, but I have mentioned the word citation multiple times without giving a direct clear reference. Well, to put it simply, a citation is a reference point that a lecturer or an examiner can use as a referential point in the bibliography. As you can see clearly here, with the Resident Evil bibliography I created, not only does the citation, which is this part right here, it is the in-text citation, contains the name of the authors but also the date was published. This is essential, as both these aspects in any sort of in-text reference, even if it's in a completely different type of citation, such as a book or a image, must have these two figures in them. They must demonstrate the last name of the author or organisation that it's a part of, and the date it was published, or in this case, updated. The main reason for this is due to the fact that this way the examiner would be able to utilise this as a reference point in order to gauge any sort of source text that had been taken from the website. They'd see this at the very end of the text that had been taken and would be able to go straight to the bibliography at the end of the report that the student made, and then would gauge which of the entries in the bibliography matched the in-text citation. Now then, I have just shown you what exactly is a citation and how to create one. However, if, for example, you say deleted this accidentally, like this, then to simply insert the citation once again, all that needs to be done is to press insert, and there, the citation is ready and available whenever time, and the exact same one appears. Now then, I have been through how to create a bibliography listing in a report, and I have discussed what is a citation and how they are in reference to a bibliography. Now, there really remains only one question: how to delete a listing within the bibliography. Simply put, you can't delete it like this. This is mainly due to the fact that lecturers and examiners have access to only electronic documents, so as a result, all they have to do is press this option at the top of the bibliography that says Update Citations in Bibliography, and simply by pressing it like this, ta-da, they have brought it back. This causes a bit of an issue, especially for professional standardised reports, since any sort of research that was committed for a report but not utilised is considered sloppy. And for college students, this is a big issue, because if you submit a report with a bibliography entry that wasn't utilised, then this costs you marks from the exam board, since they mark it down as research not being completed and, for a lack of a better word, clutter. And since part of a marking scheme of any sort of college student for a report is it has to be a professional standard. Now, this video was planned to be part of a series of videos that explain how to create a professional standardised report. However, due to time constraints and personal issues, I wasn't really able to create any other videos aside from this one, and as you can clearly see from the quality of this video, it's not a very good video to start with. However, I will leave this one advice when it comes to bibliographies and professional standardised report structures. Do not add any entry that you do not wish to have in the bibliography. In other words, don't put something in unless you're sure it's going to be utilised in the report. Otherwise, you will lose marks for cluttering up space. As malicious as that sounds, it can happen and has happened to me. I've had plenty of comments on my assignments in the past few years that have mentioned this. However, if you do wish to delete an entry, there is a very simple system. That system is known as Managing Sources, the final button in the Citations and Bibliography section on the Reference tab in Microsoft Word. The idea being it allows you to optimize the sources cited in your reports. I'm just going to simply click on it here, and as you can see, there are two lists. Current listing, which has the Resident Evil review we utilised as an example. See, there's the bibliography entry at the bottom right there, in Harvard Angular style. And finally, Master List. This is a list of every single citation that has been used as a source in a report that I myself have created, and as you can see, there is quite a few. Now, managing sources gives you a bit of a few new features, and that are unique for when it comes to creating a bibliography list. First, there is copy. Very simply, this allows you to copy anything from the master list over to the current list. As a result, I believe I shall select this one right here. It's the very same review, however, it was done incorrectly and 2 days prior to the recording of this video that I prepared as an example for this very occasion. I'm simply going to press copy, and as we can see, it's now been added. So if I exit the source manager and if I press update, and there we go. As we can see, there's been a new addition to the bibliography, and I didn't have to go through the whole process of inserting a citation. And if I go to insert citation, there we go. Once again, there's a new citation. Oh, that was a bit of a stupid place to put it. Well, keep in mind always that you're not, when it comes to citations, keep them far apart from each other because they can mess up each other, and I know from past mistakes trying to work out which one's which is a bit of annoying. And there we go. However, you can notice this isn't a very good citation, is it? It's just the website link, and I didn't really put in the date that it was published now, did I? As a result, I believe I shall have to delete this citation and entry in the bibliography. So going back to manage sources. And this brings me to the second one. Edit. Oh, no, sorry. That's the third one. Oh boy. Delete. Very simply put, however, you can notice something. It won't let me delete it. That's because I've added a citation to the report. So Microsoft Word believes that I'm utilizing it already for some sort of source information, so I can't delete it. Instead, what I'll do is I'll edit it. So I go to the third, definitely third this time, option, edit. As we can see here, it's totally bare bone. Nothing's really been added. Now then, as we recall, it was published in 2018. I accessed it 2 days ago, so remarkably similar dates, just the day will be different. It's marked on the 20th. The name of it is, I'll just call it RE7 IGN for an example, so we don't get mixed up. And just to demonstrate what the corporate author looks like, I will keep it as a corporate author and simply put in IGN. Now then, all I have to do is press OK, and as you can see here, this source exists in your master list and current document. Do you want to update both listings? Clicking yes will lead to, behold, it's changed. Now all I have to do is exit it, and once again, see, the citation has now changed. So, and yet again, it has changed. However, now we have an issue. I now have 2 entries in my bibliography that are exactly the same. This, if I submitted it as a bibliography on a professional standardised report, would lose me marks, since it's 2 of the exact same entry, with no justification as to why I've done this, so I'll have to delete one of them. I believe I will delete the one we just edited. So, first you must delete the citation first, otherwise Word will not let you edit or delete any sort of source on the bibliography at all. See, there's no tick now. So clicking back on the one I just copied over, I'll simply click delete, and if I go off the manager and once again click update citations and bibliography, lo and behold, it's now gone. The main idea of this is it will allow students and authors to directly manage and ensure that no unused bibliography is kept as a source on their listings. However, I will also mention that you can use this feature to add a new entry if you wished. So for example, if you went onto your master list and you couldn't really find any of the listing that you were looking for, which you believed you already had, then you could very simply enter the create source link this way. However, I would still recommend simply just doing it from the insert citation aspect, as that is simply just a more easier and more concise way to do it. Now then, I have demonstrated in this video so far what is a bibliography, what is a citation, and how to create these two aspects of referencing in Microsoft Word. Now, so far I have only shown how to reference a website. For college students, that's arguably going to be your biggest contributor to your bibliography. However, most lecturers will inform you websites are not the greatest source on the planet. There is one that is greater and one that is vital for any professional standardized report. That is books. However, rather than using Microsoft Word to demonstrate the citations and the bibliography listing for a book, I am instead going to be going over to that second option I mentioned earlier in the video regarding creating a bibliography list. And this option is my own preferred favourite one, and the one I have been primarily utilising throughout not only my final year at college but the previous year as well. That is mybid.com. Just going to quickly open it up here. Mybid.com. Here we go. As you can see, it is a bibliography listing service, similar to Microsoft Word but also different all at the same time. Mybid.com is a totally free service to sign up. It is a tool that is the logical choice if you do not have access to Microsoft Word, and even if you do have access to Microsoft Word, I would consider mybid.com to be a much better choice. I will leave a link in the description of this video for anyone who wishes to access mybid.com, and I highly recommend it since, as you can clearly see here, I already have started to utilize, well, I have been using, I should say, mybid.com's features for a while now, and at the moment these are my final two projects for college, and while they seem a bit bare bones at the moment, they will soon be filled in with much more detail than this. Now then, the source of information, as mentioned before, that I'll be referencing on this service is a book. Books are always the best sources of information for a professionally standardized report, since they're a published work that have shown not only has the author or the student taken time to actually research the topic for the report, and while the internet is a great source of internet information, constantly sourcing online sources such as websites or blogs or online articles will only really get so many marks in the eyes of the exam board, mainly due to the fact that, quite simply put, online sources aren't as trusted as a published source. This is mainly due to the fact that in some cases, such as Wikipedia, anyone can type anything. A published work would have had to come from a publisher, such as Penguin Books for an example, and is a trusted source. Even ebooks had to have gone through some sort of publishing company first, and as such, a lot of information has been verified through the company and is considered a much more reliable source. A book entry within a bibliography is similar to a website one. However, it has different fields that need to be filled in. These fields include the likes of the first and last name respectively alongside the title of the book, so nothing too dissimilar from a website. However, there are two types of citations that need to be identified when it comes to books in bibliography, that being chapters and the whole published work altogether. If the whole published work has been identified as the citation, this means that it is an entire book being referenced and various bits of information have been taken from the book by the author or student throughout the entire works that has been used multiple times in the report. However, if it is a single passage that has been utilised, then only an in-chapter citation is required. I will demonstrate later the differences between these two, but generally the only difference really being is the page range, which will be explained later in the video as well. However, these two entries are very similar when it comes to filling in the actual citations. In terms of what other fields need to be included within a book citation within a bibliography, the published year and the publisher needs to be included as well. That is not too dissimilar to a website either, where some cases, in fact, mybid.com asks for this specifically while Word does not, but asks for the website that the information has been hosted on. So going back to the Resident Evil one, it would have been asking what website you got the information from, not just also the URL. In that case, it would be IGN.com. And in a book's case, it would be the company that published the book, as well as the book's date of publishing. But however, there are some differences from here on out, such as the before mentioned page range, which is the amount of pages being referenced. If the whole book is being referenced, then it's the maximum amount. If not, it's only up to a set number of them. Specifically, the page that is being referenced, or the very last page that is being referenced in the case of the entire book being referenced, as mentioned before. Now then, I'm going to be clicking this button here, which is Start a New Project. Whenever you want to create a new bibliography on mybid.com, press Start New Project, and then a New Project tab comes up here, and you can switch between any of them, and you can even rename them if you have not named them immediately after creating them, like I did. So I'll just name this one Video. At least I hope that's how you spell video. My spelling has never been greatest on the planet. And now I'm going to click Add Reference. Now then, as you can see here, we have a website option, a book option, a journal option, and a video option, as well as there's the More tab. However, there is a lot on mybid.com. Everything from artwork to blog posts, to books, to the before mentioned book chapters, even to book reviews, to conference papers, database articles, dictionary entries, e-books as well, encyclopedia entries, films, the list goes on and on. The idea being mybid.com is a much more varied source for creating bibliographies and citations for a professional standardised report. However, it does require more manual work to be created in some of these cases. If I just quickly press the X button here and go back into it, these 4 tabs here are the only ones that will actually help you in order to create their bibliography at first. Any other sort of citation selected, like image, will require you to input all of the fields yourself. For example, just to go back to that Resident Evil 7 review we've been using as an example, I know I said I'd do a book, I will in a minute, but I just simply wanted to demonstrate this. There we go. They found a result for us. Press it. And it's asking, does it have a web page over? We know for a fact it does. It's Chloe Rad. Once again, I hope I said that name correctly. So if we just input that here, that's created them. And then we've got a date published. And yes, we also know that. Once again, I'd recommend putting in the date that it was updated on. rather than the date it was actually posted, since that's the most up-to-date date. So it was 2018, and it was on the 5th, and in 21. And lo and behold, it's done most of the work for us. And if we wanted to add another web page author to this, we simply press the option here. We can select whether or not it's actually a company or an individual. In this case, I want to add the fact that it's IGN where it's posted, so IGN, added there, no problem. It added the title of the article for us. It added the date we accessed it for us. It did not put in the publisher, but we know that is IGN, so we simply add there. There is also a small area for annotations where it's mainly discussed here about if the citation supports any sort of adapted work. I haven't used this very often myself, but the idea being if the citation was a reference of a reference, then the annotation box on mybib.com could be used to explain that. For example, as I'll show later, books very clearly use their own bibliography, and in some cases they reference other researched work. So if you are making a reference of a reference that comes from a published work, then an annotation section would be the place from which you write the note that this work is a taking from this cited work that was published in this cited work, if you understand what I mean. However, since this is not the case for this website, we'll just press save. And there, Resident Evil 7 Biohazard Review IGN. It's a very simple process, and I find this process on the whole a lot more understandable and easy to do rather than Microsoft Word. However, I did state at the start when moving on to mybid.com from Microsoft Word that I would be doing a book reference, and now I'm going to demonstrate and explain one of the key aspects of a book reference, and arguably one of the most important parts of any sort of reference when it comes to making book chapters or book reviews or even entire published books themselves. And that is simply the ISBN number. The ISBN number is a unique number that identifies any sort of paperback or ebook that has been published through a valid publishing company. It stands for International Standard Book Number, and as the name implies, it is used to identify each unique edition of the book. Now, this doesn't mean every single book ever has got one that's unique singular to that copy. It means every single edition or volume of book has a unique identifier that is given to them, and that is the ISBN number. In an easier term, it's simply just a unique way, mind you, of finding a version of a book that is being referenced within a bibliography. Ooh, my voice is going funny. Sorry about that. In order to demonstrate where to find a number like that, I am going to open this PDF document that I've previously used in my social media studies for my final year of college. The ISBN number will often be found after the contents page and just before the introduction, often where it's talking about the copyright section here. Copyrighted when it was published in 2012. So as a result, we can take this into account and look for the ISBN number. It will be definitely highlighted with the name of IBSN number attached to it. And here we go. We have several different IBSN numbers. However, they are different types of IBSN number. As you can see, the first one has the name cloth following it, and the second one has the name ABK following it, as does the third one and the fourth one. This is because these IBSN numbers are in reference to the e-book variations of this version of the PDF. As a result, I am going to be copying the top one as if this was a paperback one. However, if this was an actual assignment I was planning to submit for my course, I would obviously choose one of the other two, since this version of the book is actually in an electronic form that was taken from a website called PDF Drive, which I will also include in the description, as it is a very good way of actually tracking down any sort of ebooks or PDFs of books that can be used within your reports as research. And as mentioned before, books are arguably the most vital research of them all, since they not only demonstrate that you have actually looked for the research, but they demonstrate great research techniques by utilising the ISBN number. Since when it comes to referencing books, it's not the title, it's not the author, it's not all the other fields that will be demonstrated in a moment that the exam board and the lecturers look for. It's the IBSN number, and that's why this is so critical to any sort of bibliography that involves books. This number needs to be found and referenced above all else. Now, going on to the Add Reference button again. Selecting the book option, as we can see in the input box, we have two options. It asks for either a book title or the ISBN number, and luckily we have the IBSN number, so we'll paste that in. But as you can see, it has not found the results. Why is that, you may wonder? Well, quite simply, it's these dashes here. The IBSN number does not have any sort of dashes in them. As a result, we've just got to simply delete these and then search them in. Here we go. But as you can tell, multiple different versions have been chosen. There is this one, and this one. And if you were paying attention earlier, you'd know that it's one of these two that was selected. However, you can rightfully guess that there's something else as well, since only one of the options has been highlighted with the ISBN number, the second one. That's because it has auto-generated the three potential options that it could find. The IBSN number matches this edition of the book, but it also matches the future edition of the book as well, a more up-to-date version that was released in the same year, but under a different publisher. This one, on the other hand, has really nothing to do with the social media book I utilised. However, due to its IBSN number being similar, mybid.com has concluded it just in case that was the book I was trying to reference. However, it is the second option, as it can rightfully guess with the highlight. And here we go. As you can tell, there are plenty of different fields that need to be filled in that simply have not been filled in by the website. Since it could not find the date it was originally published, but did find the date that this version of the book was published. As a result, this field, as well as its subsequent brothers here, can be ignored, since the 2012 date will be utilised as considered the original one, nor could be found the original edition nor the volume number. Neither could it work out whether or not the book was online or not. As I've already mentioned, I did get this from PDF Drive, link in the description, about how I got the book from there and utilised it as a way of getting an ebook. Now, if I was doing a professional standardised report, I would definitely reference where I got it from. However, because I'm trying to simply do this as a simple paperback version, I will not do that in this citation. As a result, I need to find the edition, the volume number, as well as reference the page range of the amount I have chosen. As mentioned, the original published date for now can be ignored, while we focus primarily on trying to find these two and deciding which of the page range or how many pages I wish to reference from the PDF. Now then, we need to try and identify what edition, what volumes, and what is the page range upon which the reference has been based upon. Now then, a simple way to do this would be go right back to the start or the cover page and try and work out from there. However, as we can clearly see, there's nothing here to indicate either of these. There is the contents page as well, but there doesn't seem to be anything to indicate which of these will lead to the questions that we seek about the reference. So, this leads into this page, the copyright page. This is arguably the best place to search for these, as they will often contain what edition has been copyrighted and published by the company. So, if we quickly scan through, both of the pages on the copyright, we should try and find something about what edition or what volume that this book is. However, it would appear that this book does not have an edition or a volume. So, going back to mybid.com, we have no choice but to leave these two editions for blank, as well as volume blank as well. Now, these two fields being left blank may lose a student or an author who submits a work, especially a report that utilises bibliography, some marks. However, if no other way of tracking down an edition or a volume number is an option for the citation, then you can very simply ignore them. This will lose you some marks, but as long as the ISBN number is present, they may consider the factor that there was no edition or volume number on the book being referenced, as if it is a single edition and a single volume, very, very often than not, they won't state that they are these. And as a result, I am inclined to believe that the PDF document I have been viewing so far and utilising in my own college work is a first edition and volume number. But since I cannot verify this, and in this citation I'll do the same as what I did last time when trying to reference this, I will leave it blank. Instead, I will select the page range upon which I wish to reference, and that, in this case, shall be the introduction page. Now, as we can see here at the bottom, which I'll just quickly highlight, the page range for this citation will be the number 13. So, just quickly going back onto mybid.com and typing in 30. And that is all the relevant fields required to be filled in for this book. Since the citation has already been automatically filled in helpfully by mybid.com, the two authors have been added, the book title, the date published, the IBSN number which we inputted, the publisher's place, and the publisher itself. However, I feel as though I must stress the fact that organisations such as IGN will not be considered actual book authors unless the publication that is being referenced as a book is some sort of guidebook that a business has placed online for academic purposes. For example, perhaps a guidebook about policies in the workplace that a business has created so that their employees may understand there are certain policies about harassment or something like that. That would be considered a book, or at least some sort of published article that would allow for the author to be considered the organisation alongside the actual authors who created it, since they are its employees. And the publisher would actually also be the organisation as well, since they created and distributed it. However, in this case, that is not a thing, as the publisher, Wiley, or Wheely, my pronunciations, once again, aren't the greatest in the world, were not the authors, they were simply the distributors. As a result, only the authors will be added as the credited creators. However, you can see here there is an option for if the book was accessed online. By toggling this switch, 2 new fields have been added: the URL and the date viewed and accessed. 3 fields that helpfully can be filled in by simply pressing today, and it gives us today's date. However, since this book was not accessed online, at least in this example it wasn't, in the actual time I used it in my assignment work it was, and I did paste in the URL link for PDF drive from which I got it from. Again, I will put that in the link for the description if anyone wants to utilize PDF drive, as it is once again a free service that will provide you PDF scans of documents and books that can be used as research to create bibliographies like this. The annotations in this case would mainly be utilized to reference something to do with the authors. For example, if an organization was identified as the author, the annotation aspect of the citation could be used to state the fact that the organization created this guidebook for their employees and they are the publisher and distributor as well. However, in this example that is not the case and it will not be required. So we simply have to press save. And there we are. Reference has been added. We now have 2 entries in our bibliography, both citations of the examples we've used so far for the Resident Evil 7 Biohazard review and the social media book that has been utilized from the PDF document that was shown before. However, if you are curious as to how to actually get rid of any sort of sources that you do not wish to have on your bibliography anymore in order to prevent the loss of marks that were mentioned much earlier in the video regarding the website citation, then simply mybid.com allows you to simply select which ones you wish to delete. Going on to the various options we have here, which allows you to copy the bibliography entry, which we will do later, copy the in-text citation, which we will do later, move the selected resources of the project, so if we wish to have it above or below other citations, but it won't allow that since there are only 2 at the moment, or if we wish to duplicate the selected project, we can simply press that and copy, and here we have another copied reference. Very simple to understand, yet another reason as to why I prefer mybid.com to Microsoft Word. No need to press all the unnecessary buttons when the website simply offers you various tools you can have on hand at all times. And if you simply wish to alter this one, say to change the title, you simply have to double click on it and hey presto, it's been updated. Now back to trying to delete it, all we'd have to do is once again highlight it and press this red bin here and ta-da, deleted. In truth, this is why mybid.com I consider at the very least to be a much better option than Microsoft Word, since if you do not have access to Microsoft Word, so long as you have access to the internet, you have a free service that can be utilized. And take it from a college student like myself and various other members of my unit at college have utilized mybid.com over Microsoft Word, simply because not only does it allow for various different sources to be created through various different fields, in other words have more options than Microsoft Word, but it's simply just a more easier interface to understand and utilize, as you've seen just here with the deletion. I didn't have to go through multiple tables or select things from 2 different grids of various different previous work in order to find the one I wish to copy. Now then, I have discussed how to create two different types of bibliographies on two different types of services, mybid.com and Microsoft Word. In this final part of the video, I shall now demonstrate how to actually display the bibliography in your report and how to actually utilize the in-text citations alongside the text that is being taken from the source itself. So, how this is done, rather simply, in order to get these two citations from the bibliography to the Word document that was used before, we simply click Download Work Cited, and here we have various different options. We could print it off, not really good idea for trying to submit it. Save a backup, again that is a logical idea if you wish to save it. Email it to ourselves, that's again a logical idea. Get yourself a copy. Google Drive, again another logical idea. But Word document, that's another logical idea. However, I can guarantee you will most likely be clicking the copy and paste function, as this allows you to simply copy and paste it straight into your reports. And here we go. However, rather than clicking copy and paste, I find it easier simply to copy and paste it on my own through the commands through a mouse, as I've seen from past experiences that I can sometimes muddle up the references when it comes to actual dates and everything. Like, one date could become another book's and another book's could become another. It is a whole circus that I do not recommend you get involved in. So all we now have to do is make sure once again we're away from the bibliography and the citation of the other, and then ta-da! Bibliography straight from mybid.com. But as for the citations, as I'm about to show you, there is a bit of a difference. The date is not on the citations from mybid.com. Instead, it displays the author's last names and the page range. This is not really required. However, I always find it a good idea to add the date of any sort of reference book from mybid.com. Mybid.com, as we can see, if I copy the Resident Evil citation now, doesn't have the date in either. It doesn't add it as Microsoft Word does, which is a point in favour to Microsoft Word. However, I still find mybid.com to be more useful, since it gives me a broader range of tools to utilise, and the functions and user interface is simply to understand. Since we know this was released in 2018, or should I say updated in 2018, we can simply add that. And once again, we can simply add the date that we know it comes from, 2012. Now then, this video has gone into detail on how to create a bibliography on Word and mybid.com. However, it hasn't really touched upon how exactly to display the bibliography in a report to a professional standard, as well as how to use the in-text citations alongside any sort of information that is taken from the source that the citation was created from. To demonstrate this, I am first, to make things simply, going to delete the Resident Evil reference that I created on the bibliography, on mybid.com. That way I do not create confusion for those who are watching. Next, we're just going to go into page breaks. This is by far the most important aspect of a layout when it comes to a professional report. This is mainly due to the fact that a page break like this one here, or simply pressing insert blank page or page break on the insert tab rather than going into layout then breaks, causes some issues with the footer of the reports. I don't really have much time to go into detail now during this video, but the idea being is each footer is supposed to be the same as its previous one in regarding to the section heading that's supposed to be in a footer, and having a page break like the first option here ends a section and begins another one. As a result, adding instead a section break where you can insert a section break and start a section on another page ensures that the section is split up, unlike this option here which will continue it. As a result of this, since we're still trying to create a bibliography anyway, I am going to insert this type of page break. However, I still felt as though I should highlight the fact that this page break here can be used to break the report up into sections, which is something that both lecturers and examiners look for. So, having broken it into two different pages, I'm just going to simply copy over this one, and I'll also just copy the title from this bibliography as well. I'll just call it Bibliography 2 for short. And to make things a bit more easier, I'll simply just put this in a bullet point. Right there is what you should really be aiming for when it comes to creating a bibliography. You should have a section all to itself, cut off from the rest of the report, but still in the report, of course, so that it is its own personal section that you put in all the bibliography citations and ensuring that they're all up to date, as well as only the relevant ones have been utilised to ensure that the maximum amount of marks can be given for the report being submitted. However, in terms of using the in-text citations, such as the book citation here and the game review citation here, rather simply, they are supposed to follow the text that's been taken directly from the source. Just to demonstrate this, I'm just going to simply go back into Resident Evil 7's review, and I'll copy this introductory paragraph here, if it will let me. Oh yes, it will. And then going back into the Word document, I'm simply just going to insert that here. Now, right at the moment, you look at that, you'd think, hold on a second, that doesn't make it look like it's been identified properly. And you are correct. There is no identification to prove that this is an outside piece of information. There are two key factors that must be done in order to make sure that the identification is clear. The first is the styling. Simply put in these two simple symbols, the 66 and the 99, more commonly known as speech marks, to show that in a report that this specific piece of information has been taken from an outside source. Adding the speech marks shows that any sort of examiner or lecturer who is looking at this can understand that this bit of information is taken from an outside source. However, even with that, it is still quite unmistakable, as reading through it, especially on my screen at the moment, due to the fact I'm zoomed out, you may not be able to see the speech marks. As a result, the second step is to simply put it into italics like that. Then with that done, you simply move the in-text citation, and there you go. You have successfully referenced the Resident Evil 7 review. This goes for any sort of information taken from any sort of source. For example, I'll just demonstrate again with the introduction for the book about social media that was used before. I'll just simply use this sentence here. After copying it in, I'll just remove all formatting to make it a bit understandable. Make sure it's an actual sentence. Add the 66 and the 99, or the speech marks. Place it into italics. Then move the citation. And there you go. The book has now been successfully referenced. And so I'll leave this video on this final note right here regarding the actual main body of text. Now, of course, you wouldn't have the bibliography and the actual in-text citation along with the quoted source of information all in one section. Just to demonstrate what it would look like, I'm just going to quickly show you. So I'll just delete this. And in truth, this is what it would sort of look like with your bibliography in one section and your quoted information with its in-text citation in another. But a more detailed example is just going back to that report I discussed earlier, is as we can see here, I utilised 3 books in this 6,000 word report and the bibliography there. So if we just quickly go back up to that table that I showed before, as you can see here, it's on a totally different section. Just clicking on the footer. This was in Learning Section 1. And the bibliography had its own designated section called Bibliography, while at the same time the page numbers still remain different, while the actual author's name remained the same. In truth, when it comes to creating a professionally standardized report, this is what the structure you want it to be like. Bibliography with its own section, main body of text with its own section, introduction with its own section, conclusion with its own section, appendices with its own section, and any other sort of requirement that the report will have, such as a submission form or an abstract and a title page, must all have their own section. And this brings us to the end of our video today. I hope you've got a much deeper understanding of what a bibliography is, how to create one in Microsoft Word and on mybid.com, how to use the citations in your text, specifically your main body of text, why you need to section it off, and more specifically how to reference a website or a book, which I'm sure most of you will be utilizing the most. Sorry for the roughness of the video. This is really the first video I have ever really properly recorded and uploaded to YouTube. Please like, comment and subscribe. Every like and comment helps towards the analytics aspect of my own project that I'm doing for college at the moment, and as that sorry about that, a part of my project is to create a I'm redoing it